You trust people, not blindly, just enough. Enough to let them in. Enough to believe they are who they say they are. But sometimes the people who drain you the most aren't loud, aren't cruel, aren't obvious. They're thoughtful, helpful, nice, and that's what makes it dangerous. Because you don't realize what's happening until you've already changed. You say yes more, apologize more, doubt yourself more, and little by little, you become smaller around them. Not because they hurt you directly, but because they made you forget how to stand in your own truth. Carl Jung spent his life mapping the hidden sides of human nature, the shadow, the persona, the unconscious. And he warned, the greatest danger isn't the enemy you see, it's the one you invite in without realizing it. So these are the 6 people he believed you must learn to recognize. Because they don't just affect your mood, they change your mind, your boundaries, yourself. Not out of malice, but because they've lost connection to their own. Number 1, the mirror with no soul. They're always there for you. They listen, they agree, they understand, maybe a little too well. You think, finally, someone who gets me. But over time, something feels off. You realize they never really share. You've told them everything, but you don't know what makes them angry, what scares them, what drives them, because there's nothing there. No depth, no clarity, just reflection. Carl Jung called this projection, when people unconsciously disown parts of themselves and attach them to others. But this person doesn't just project a feeling. They become your mirror. They mold to your desires, your energy, your wounds. They make themselves safe, familiar, ideal, and slowly you begin to change around them. You soften your edges. You question your gut. You let things slide, not because they asked, but because they made it easy to forget yourself. They don't steal your power. You give it to them because they feel so right. But here's the truth. They're not doing it to manipulate. They don't even know they're doing it because they have no real sense of self. They've spent their life surviving by being what others need. And now, without realizing it, you're doing the same for them. Jung said, we meet ourselves time and again in 1,000 disguises. Sometimes one of those disguises is a person who looks perfect for you because they're nothing at all. Number 2, the moral controller. You didn't do anything wrong. Not really. You said no. You asked for space. You prioritized yourself. And they said, wow, I didn't expect that from you. I guess I misjudged who you really are. I would have done it for you. No yelling, no accusations. Just disappointment, sharp enough to cut through your gut. Carl Jung talked about the persona, the mask we wear to fit in, to feel loved, to seem good. But some people don't just wear it, they weaponize it. They act like morality is objective, but somehow it always favors them. Their version of kindness means sacrifice from you. Their version of love means loyalty to them. And when you step outside of their version of right and wrong, they don't argue. They make you feel like you failed as a person. You begin to apologize for setting boundaries. You question your needs. You shrink yourself just to be seen as good again. Not because they said you were bad, but because they made you feel like anything less than obedience was a moral flaw. Jung warned that when the persona becomes your identity, you lose your soul in exchange for approval. But the real danger is when you start believing their version of what's right, even if it kills parts of you to live inside it. Number 3, the repressed shadow carrier. You say something harmless, they snap. You share good news, they go cold. You make a small mistake, they explode. And deep down, you wonder, why did that hit so hard? What did I do wrong? The answer, nothing. You didn't cause their reaction. You just triggered a part of them they've been running from for years. Carl Jung called this the shadow, the pieces of ourselves we reject, deny, or hide because we think they're shameful, weak, or ugly. But what we repress doesn't go away. It waits, and when something, or someone, touches it, it comes out, not as honesty, as punishment. This person isn't reacting to you. They're reacting to a version of themselves that they see in you and hate. They accuse you of arrogance, because they're drowning in insecurity. They say you're selfish because they've never learned to ask for what they need. They say you're cold because they've buried their own feelings so deep they no longer recognize compassion. Jung wrote, "The shadow is a tight passage, a narrow door, whose painful constriction no one is spared." The danger isn't that they have a shadow. We all do. The danger is they don't know it's theirs. And until they do, they'll keep casting it on the people who love them most and punishing them for the reflection. Number 4, the wounded identity. They take everything personally. A joke, a delay in response, a boundary you gently set, and suddenly, it's a crisis. You feel like you're always explaining yourself, apologizing for things you didn't mean, walking on eggshells around invisible landmines. But it's not really about what you said. It's about what it reminded them of. Carl Jung called these emotional hotspots complexes, clusters of past trauma, shame, or unmet needs buried in the unconscious. They lie dormant until someone, usually unknowingly, presses against them. This person is carrying an unresolved story, and in that story, they're the hurt one, the ignored one, the betrayed one. So when you make a healthy decision, they see abandonment. When you assert yourself, they see attack. They don't react to you. They react to someone from years ago, and you get cast in that role. Whether you like it or not, you become part of their emotional play without knowing the script. And every time you try to step out of it, they pull you back in with tears, silence, blame, or guilt. Not because they're evil, but because their pain became their identity. Jung warned, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. And if you're not careful, you'll start calling it fate too. Number 5, the moral narcissist. You try to explain how you feel. They tilt their head, nod slowly, and say, "You're being irrational. You're not seeing this objectively. You weren't trying to win. You were trying to connect. But now, you're in a debate you didn't sign up for." Carl Jung warned about the inflation of intellect, when thinking becomes disconnected from the soul, when logic becomes a weapon, and truth becomes a mask. This person doesn't raise their voice. They dismantle you, quietly. They'll quote studies, use clean arguments, stay calm while you feel like you're unraveling, because they're not here to understand. They're here to be right. You begin to censor yourself, question your memory, abandon your feelings, not because they're invalid, but because you don't have the evidence to defend them. They use intelligence not as a tool, but as a wall. Jung believed that when intellect dominates, it separates us from wholeness, because real connection isn't clean. It's messy, emotional, human. The moral narcissist isn't smarter than you. They're just more rehearsed. And if you stay long enough, you won't just stop arguing, you'll stop feeling. Number 6, the psychic vampire. You leave the conversation feeling tired, not upset, not hurt, just drained. It's subtle. It doesn't feel like an attack. It feels like work. You carry the conversation, manage their emotions, keep things upbeat, and they just take it in. Carl Jung didn't call them vampires, but he warned about people who unconsciously feed off others because they've lost access to their own inner life. These people aren't bad. They're just disconnected from meaning, from direction, from emotional self-sufficiency. So they attach themselves to people with energy, with passion, with light, not to steal it intentionally, but because they don't know how to create it on their own. You offer advice, they ignore it. You hold space, they dump more. And the worst part, they frame it as connection. But connection goes both ways. This doesn't. This is emotional gravity. One person rising, the other pulling down. Jung wrote, "People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul. And if you're not careful, you'll spend all your light trying to fill someone who's refusing to look within." Not everyone who drains you means to. Not everyone who manipulates knows they are. Not everyone who breaks you sees it happen. Carl Jung didn't create enemies. He revealed shadows, unconscious patterns, wounds wearing faces. He believed that most danger doesn't come from evil, but from unawareness. And that's the hardest part, because the people who hurt you most often think they're helping, they think they're loving, they think they're right. But the question isn't, are they good or bad? The real question is, how long can you betray yourself just to stay connected to someone who's disconnected from themselves? You're not here to carry everyone's story. You're here to write your own. And the first sentence of that story might be, I finally saw what I didn't want to see, and I chose myself anyway.